You're now recognized.
안녕하십니까. 글로벌 모니터 안근모입니다. 미국의 금리 인하가 아주 가까워지는 모습입니다. 제롬 파월 연준 의장이 이번 주 의회 보고에서 금리 인하에 한층 전향적인 태도를 보였습니다. 아주 좋은 물가 지표를 얻었다. 좋은 데이터가 더 나오면 금리를 내릴 것이라는 뜻을 밝혔습니다. 그리고 나서 미국 6월 CPI가 발표됐는데 아주 좋은 것 이상으로 좋게 나왔죠. 고용에 관한 언급이 특히 주목할 만했습니다. 노동시장 환경이 상당히 냉각됐다는 신호를 아주 분명하게 얻었다면서 인플레이션이 이제 우리의 유일한 리스크가 아니다. 금리를 너무 늦게 내리면 경제와 고용을 과도하게 해칠 수 있다고 파월 의장은 강조했습니다. 연준이 그동안 제시해온 금리 인하의 전제 조건은 두 가지입니다. 인플레이션이 2% 목표를 향해 지속 가능하게 내려가고 있다는 강한 자신감이 서는 경우 또는 노동시장이 예기치 않게 약해지는 경우입니다. 그런데 이 두 가지 조건은 서로 독립적으로 상호 무관하게 존재하지는 않습니다. 만약 노동시장이 아주 빠르게 냉각된다면 인플레이션이 좀 더 더디게 내려가더라도 인플레이션 목표 회복을 좀 더 자신할 수 있게 됩니다. 파월 의장은 물가와 고용에 미치는 위험의 균형이 이제 같아졌다고 말했습니다. 그런데 이 두 가지 리스크의 변모 방향이 지금 서로 다릅니다. 물가 압력이 두드러지게 낮아지고 있고 실업은 예상보다 빠르게 늘어나는 중입니다. 그래서 물가와 고용에 미치는 위험의 균형은 머지않아서 고용 쪽으로 완연히 기울 수가 있습니다. 파월 의장은 금리 인하 타이밍에 관해서는 언급하지 않겠다고 선을 그었습니다. 지표에 달린 문제라고 말했습니다. 그럼 파월 의장의 미 의회 보고 주요 장면을 보시겠습니다.
Was the Fed blinded by the previous 20 years of global change that was deflationary and or you were not alert enough in 2020 to be more cautious about that change in policy?
So we were certainly mindful of a long period of time in which there have been very low interest rates, but also very low inflation, suggesting that the neutral interest rate must have fallen quite substantially. That was the standard view. The thing we didn't see coming was the pandemic. It's not like everything went off the rails. It's like we had this pandemic and it really changed the way the economy is working. We had a big crisis. We did a lot of things. So the concerns that led us to those concerns that we were in a world of very low interest rates all the time.
But now wouldn't you say we're in a very opposite situation where because of reshoring and tariffs and other policies that are quite inflationary?
I would say this. Those concerns are right now we have the policy rate in the mid fives, right? And we see the policy is restrictive, but clearly interest rates, the neutral interest rate must have moved up, at least in the short term.
Chairman Powell, after a year with very high inflation that battered American paychecks, inflation rates have moderated some. However, inflation continues to linger above the 2% target rate set by the Federal Reserve. Chairman Powell, does the commitment to achieve a 2% average over time apply in the other direction as well? Meaning that if inflation remains above 2% for a protracted period, would the committee instead aim for inflation moderately below 2% for some time in order to achieve an inflation average of 2%?
No, it doesn't.
Is it fair to say that you would need to see the PCE index dip below 2% at least once in the coming months in order to contemplate a rate cut?
No, that's not fair to say. We've said that you don't want to wait until inflation gets all the way down to 2%. Because inflation has a certain momentum. You wouldn't wait that long. If you waited that long, you probably waited too long because inflation will be moving downward and will go well below 2%, which we don't want.
What combination of factors would you need to see in order to support a rate cut this month or in September?
So once again, I'll say I'm not sending any signals on any particular date of any meeting whatsoever on policy. I said that yesterday and I'm saying it again today, but I will answer your question. So what we said is that we want to be more confident. We want to have greater confidence, and that means more good inflation readings. That inflation is moving sustainably down to 2%. Greater confidence that that is the case. But remember, we have a dual mandate, too. We're not just an inflation-targeting central bank. We also have an employment mandate. So I could also see us cutting, and we've said this, I've said this, if we saw unexpected weakening in the labor market. And we do now see, I'll say, speak for myself, I now see the risks to the two mandates as much closer to being in balance. I think for a long time, we've had to focus heavily on the inflation mandate, but I think now we're getting to the place where you know, the labor market is getting pretty much in balance to where it needs to be, and so we're looking at both sides.